Gentlemen, it is me, Jim Kinkade, and in my right hand I have the Mudman GW9500 by Casio G-Shock, and in my left hand, the Casio AE1500. And this is a comparison video, and the Mudman costs $380 retail, and the AE1500 $22. So this is a pretty wild comparison video given the cost difference. But these two watches have a lot more in common than you'd think. And on top of that, the AE1500 has a huge fan base. And there are more than a few people who have rejected the Mudman in favor of the 1500, including a few commenters on my channel, and we'll go through that. But first, let's compare and contrast. Okay, look how similar these watches are in appearance. We have these 4 screws that I believe on the Mudman may actually hold down part of this protective bumper, but these screws are obviously decorations, and they both have big numbers, which is rare for a G-Shock, okay? And emotionally, for me, these two are similar in the fact that, as a G-Shock owner, we've had a problem. And let me pull out of my G-Shock bag, which I did not buy. I did buy, but I didn't put it on my order. It popped up on my order. But anyways, here's the King, the GXW56BB. Look how difficult it is to read. Tiny numbers. And that is a problem across the board, pretty much all G-Shocks. And so a lot of us were left thinking that Casio just cannot make big numbers on their LCD displays. And then one day I walked into Walmart and I saw this giant LCD display, big huge numbers on a Casio watch with an extended wristband. All these things, I was sitting there in the middle of Walmart flipping out, and nobody knew why. And it was just, only my heart knew the suffering, and maybe some of you did too. Why is it Casio could put these big numbers on a cheap $22 watch, while this one, which was about $200, has tiny numbers? Okay? That's like the mystery of the universe. And so we're all clamoring for Casio to make that G-Shock with giant numbers, and we thought that this one would be it. Okay? But then some of us got to watch, and we're like, wait a minute. Yeah, it has big numbers, but I'm kind of losing sight of them in the glare. And so there's some problems with the legibility on the Mudman. And I think it's more than just glare. I think there's some total internal reflection. I think there's some polarizing light effect canceling out the light, including when you have it illuminated at night. There's some dead spots, okay? Now, the legibility issues of the Mudman are worthy of their own rant video, okay? So stay tuned for that rant video. And I know a lot of you viewers of my channel have left rants in the comment about how terrible it is, the legibility of the Mudman. Off the top of my head, I believe MF2359 was dissatisfied with the Mudman legibility, and I believe he returned it. And who else? I think Alex McKinley also was dissatisfied with the legibility of the Mudman and returned it. And Alex McKinley, I believe, is an owner of the AE1500 and a huge fan of it, okay? So the legibility issues of the Mudman, they don't exist on the AE1500, specifically the glare and the light canceling out. But one legibility problem on the AE1500 is that at steep angles, you kind of lose it. And what happens is that it's not really showing up now on camera, but yeah, right there. See, at this angle, you can't read the time because the whole LCD, all of the spots of the LCD are kind of blacked out. Oh wait, no, I have it on stopwatch. That's why it says 000. Okay, let's try that again. see, you start to lose the numbers right there. Okay? And some of you may be saying, well, that's a pretty extreme angle. And it is, but when you see it in person, like, the problem is right here that we have some reflection. But there is a point where the numbers start to kind of get blacked out. Let me get my pointer pen. The Zebra F701. I have the Zebra F701 today. And so you can kind of see the actual panels of the LCD display. Okay? And surprisingly, the Mudman does not have that problem. You can see at steep angles, ironically, it's still pretty legible. The problem is the glare. The problem is the total internal reflection. And the reason why that's the case, I believe, and this is my theory, is that in order to get this G-Shock watch to the appropriate level of durability in terms of shock resistance and impact resistance, they have extra layers of plastic. Okay, so there's a plastic that has, you know, all this print on it, and it's to keep it from damaging the internal module. But then there's the overlay for the compass, which adds another sandwich of LCD. And let me get to the compass and I'll show you. Okay, so it has an overlay of that blue compass direction, the compass rose. And then there's, of course, the plastic of the bottom LCD, okay? Legibility issues, all right? And let me see. Let me find my ProTrek. So this is, the Mudman is a ProTrek module stuffed into a G-Shock case. And here is the PRW 3500, a Casio ProTrek. And so you do lose the numbers at a certain angle, right? But face on, more legible, much more contrast in the number and the background than on the Mudman. And a similar thing here on the Casio AE1500, okay? So on top of that, there's more contrast on the AE1500. There is bigger segments. So each of these segments on the LCD, like I think these are 8 segment displays, each number. So the actual segments are thicker. See how thick those segments are? Right? And then you look at the Mudman, the segments are thinner. Okay? And so it's easier at a glance to look at, read the time when you're looking face on, when you're looking at the AE1500 compared to the Mudman GW9500. And so that's a big issue for a lot of guys, especially those who wear reading glasses, wanting the legibility. And so many guys out there are choosing the AE1500 over the Mudman. And so let's talk a little bit about durability, because that seems wild. I mean, you're only choosing a watch on legibility? Well, yeah, some guys, I mean, yeah, legibility is that important. And it really bothers me and a lot of other guys. Why does Casio have like in legibility? How did this watch leave the factory? Like, how could an engineer at Casio look at this watch and be like, yeah, I can barely read it, but let's mass produce this and sell it? Like, why do they do this? And also, like their analog watches. They have some black analog watches with black faces, black indices, black hands. It's like, how do you read it? Why would I don't know. But anyways, in terms of durability, okay, I can confirm to you that the AE1500 has a lot of durability, okay? Now, you know that I spotted Will wearing this in the oil field. Will works on coiled tubing, and his is beaten up, scratched up. There's all this mud crusted in it, grease, and it's still ticking away. He's had it for some time, okay? And so the durability is pretty good. And there's another commenter on my review of this watch on that video. Yeah, it's actually Alex McKinley. He says he's in fire and rescue. and that he can confirm that the AE1500 has passed his vocational durability test with flying colors. Okay, and you can see those comments in my review video of the AE1500. So the AE1500 has a lot of fans. There was one commenter who said that he had to glue it back together. Who was it? Illidium Q36 said, "Trust me, the bezel will pop off. I'm sure your friend," he's referring to Will, "had to glue it back on like I did. LOL. That was the reason I bought the GW9500." Okay, so Illudium Q36 went with the Mudman over the AE1500, and I also went with the Mudman. Okay, you can watch my durability tests. I dunked this thing in diesel, liquid nitrogen, used motor oil from a Caterpillar engine, and what else? A cat headbutted this thing. So this has gone through the ringer, and I would like confirm that this is extremely durable. So much so that I've put up with the legibility issues. I just live with the legibility issues. Some guys just will not and cannot live with the legibility issues of the Mudman GW9500, and they've gone back to the AE1500. Okay, and I think that for most of us, the AE1500 is good enough in terms of durability. Okay, like for me, the most important part is the pins, and these pins are invaginated deeply into those lugs, and it's a G-Shock style band that has the downward, points downward to, you know, if it drops, it will spring back up and protect the watch. And also, this particular model has an extended wristband, but having the band point down helps, you know, if your wrist is average to smaller size, that it keeps the gaps from opening up in the corners and allows the strap to hug your wrist. Okay, and so $22. It's for most guys out there. The AE1500 is a no-brainer. And with Christmas coming up, I think that I'm going to really shill for the AE1500, just because it has such a following that if some aunt is out there wondering what to buy for Aiden, I'm going to tell her, buy Aiden the AE1500, buy Braden the AE1500, buy Jaden the AE1500. Caden, I don't know if Caden is really responsible enough, but I mean, we'll pick out a watch for Caden, maybe another one. But the AE1500, I have no reservations about recommending this watch to anybody out there, right? The Mudman, I mean, to recommend this one, if someone asked me what G-Shock should I get, I would recommend this GW9500. But I would be like, listen, some people complain about the glare, and do not buy the negative LCD display. Buy the positive LCD display one, right? So that's kind of how it is between the two of these. And yes, I do have some links. I know that you gentlemen out there love links. I have some links below in the comments that you want to click on if you're interested in purchasing these, okay? So the AE1500, I believe I have an Amazon link. I could not find the GW9500 on Amazon, but I did find the link on Amazon to the Japanese version, which is supposedly better quality. Okay, so I have a link to the Amazon of the GW9500. Okay, link below. Those are affiliate links, all right? But I purchased this directly from Casio, and I purchased this one at Walmart. I was in Walmart. You can pick this one up at Walmart and walmart.com, but my link that's below, I believe it's for Amazon. Subject to change without notice. Restrictions apply. See, you know, the comments for details. But anyways, to talk more about the comparison of these watches, in terms of comfort, this band is very thick, very rugged, very durable band. I would trust this band a lot more than the AE1500's band, okay? And when you first put on the AE1500, if you're coming from a comfortable watch, like I was with the GBD 2000, where is it? Is it in there? I think I saw, yeah, nope, That's not it. It's somewhere. Let me see if it's in my bag of watches. Yeah, there it is. There it is. So this is the GBD 2000. Extremely comfortable. Amazingly comfortable, in fact. And then to go from the GW, or excuse me, the GBD 2000 to this watch, it feels scratchy, okay? It's like, there's bumps here, raised bumps, and what these bumps do is they kind of ratchet down on the keeper to keep the keeper up. Since it's such an extended wristband on this model, most guys are going to have a lot of flap, and so the keeper is going to have to ride up high, and these bumps keep the keeper up, higher up on the buckle side of the wristband. But it is kind of scratchy. I did get used to it after a while, but the comfort level of the GW 9500 is superior. That is for dadgum sure, okay? And the other thing too, I know a lot of you guys are really particular about the buckle, okay? So this is a plastic buckle. The tangs are plastic, and that's going to be a deal breaker for a lot of you. I know that. That's why I included the link below for the GW 9500, because this band is beefy, okay? And this buckle is beefy. Look at that. That's a big, beefy metal band, or excuse me, metal buckle. And a lot of these newer Casio G-Shock watches aren't full metal. This is the GBD 2000, and look at that buckle. The tang is metal, and I believe that this buckle's plastic. Not 100% sure, but pretty sure it's plastic. It's very light. Based on how light it is, it's plastic, I would say. Could be wrong, but no doubt about the Mudman having a metal buckle, okay? So if that metal buckle's a deal breaker, you're not going to want the AE1500, okay? And so a lot of you guys come from the school of thought that, I'll buy a $22 watch. If it breaks, I'll just buy another $22 watch. Well, then why would you ever buy a $380 watch? Well, part of the reason is that your lifestyle may not allow you to just swing by the store on the way home from work, okay? In the oil field, you could be stuck at an oil well for days on end on some job, you know, like sleeping in the truck or, you know, at a trailer they have on the job site. So this watch, if you are, you know, not able to just swing by Walmart after work, this is a good one. If you're on some expedition, over-the-road trucking, oil field, forestry, anything like that, that is so durable, I wouldn't, it would be buy once, cry once, okay? Well, depending on how bad you find the legibility, you might be crying more often. It's not that bad. It's just annoying more than anything to spend $380 on a watch that the contrast is not good and it's not crisp. I don't want to exaggerate how bad it is because I find it to be annoying, and you might too. But some guys just absolutely not. They just, you know, forget about it. That's what they said. And this is what Casio is capable of in terms of legibility. Look at that. This is the Pro Trek. It's beautiful. And maybe I think that I have a link for this one. I think that this one's on Amazon. I bought this particular one on eBay. And so I'll drop a link for this one too. Very similar. And I'm going to make a separate video comparing the Mudman to the Pro Trek because they have the same functions. Okay. And speaking of functions, that will be the next, that will be the next comparison between the AE1500 and the GW 9500. Okay, so this AE1500 has basic functions, okay? So here's the time. Actually, it's not even the time. That's the second time zone. Here's the time, okay? So with huge numerals, we have the time. With smaller numerals, we have the day of the week and the date. And seconds ticking away, okay? And along the perimeter, we have an animation for the seconds ticking away, and an indication that of which alarms are on, okay, and a bell for the hourly chime. And a lot of you guys out there love that hourly chime. I do, my sons do. At the turn of every hour, all of our Casio G-Shock watches are beeping. It's what us Kinkades do, okay? We're going to have to get Uncle Russ a G-Shock with the chime turned on so that when he visits, all of our watches are beeping at the top of every hour. Next, we have alarms. Like I said, 5 alarms, one of which is snooze. And this is really interesting. You can set an alarm to be on a particular date. So this is my January 1st at 1 a.m. alarm. Just to remind me to stay off the road. It's amateur hour. Don't want to crash. Or have someone crash into me is what, like, you just stay at home on New Year's. It's not worth it. Okay, and this is a timer which can be set as high as 24 hours and forward and reverse in terms of scrolling through the numerals you're setting, okay? So we're going from 0, oh, maybe I'm wrong. It's a one-way street, sorry. I'm confused. But it does go up to, timer does go up to 24 hours, so 23:59. And then, well, I guess it's 1 minute short of 24 hours for the timer. But that's a nice timer. And surprisingly, better timer than the DWH-5600 and the GBD-H2000 and probably the GBD-200, which I don't have, but I'm going to assume that since they have the similar G-Shock Move operating system, that this timer is superior to a lot of these newfangled watches that Casio are making. The stopwatch goes as high as 24 hours, or same thing, 23 hours and 59 minutes. And when you get it going, you have the animation along the right perimeter. And look at this, hundredths of a second. All right, let me stop the watch and show you. Hundredths of a second, 42 hundredths of a second. All right, so these are the seconds ticking away at the bottom, minutes and hours. And then we have a second time zone, which has to be set the old-fashioned way by holding down the adjust. And we're back to the regular time. If we are in any other mode and we hold down mode, it will go back to the main time. Okay? Now, Larry from Wisconsin, oh, my light died. Let me get this light back on. Larry from Wisconsin, he had a gripe with the AE1500 pertaining to the fact that in stopwatch mode on the AE1500, you can't see the local time. Okay, so let's go to stopwatch, and again, you can't see what time it is. All right, so that is one advantage that the Mudman has. And so the Mudman has all those basic features on the same parameters. Let's just go through the basic functions, which you scroll through with the mode button, bottom left corner. So the main time, again, has day of the week, in the day of the month, the time, the seconds, and there's no indication on the front about how many alarms are set, but that it looks like that echo, parentheses echo, that's an indication that some alarms are on. And we have an hourly chime and a light function so that when you tip the, it has to be dark, but when you tip the watch up, it self-illuminates. Okay, that's what LT stands for. And you hold down the light button. And so the light button on this is on the front, and the light button on the AE1500 is the top right button, okay? 2 LEDs in the bottom of the AE1500, and on the Mudman, the button on the front illuminates, much better illumination, okay? But the AE1500 is really good at catching any ambient light in like a transition period at night that you can read the numbers really well. That's my verdict on the AE1500. And this one, not as much. Okay, so when you hit mode once, you're going to the almanac, the sun up, sundown, okay? And you can go through different dates to see when the sunrise and sunset is. Really useful for those of us who work outside and those of us who drive permitted loads. Okay, the permits for oversized loads going down Texas highways A lot of them stipulate that you have to, you can only drive between sunup and sundown. So if you're doing route planning, you want to know when the sunrise and sunset are. And this is where you record your altitude when you're hiking. And I use this incorrectly on my hiking video where I compared the Mudman to the GBDH2000. Nobody caught it, but I had just purchased this watch, and we had an impromptu, or an unplanned hike that one day we're just like, hey, let's go hiking at Caprock Canyon. So me and my boys camped and went hiking on a moment's notice, and I hadn't read about how to use this function where you record your altitude. So we're gonna have to go hiking again with the GW9500, but it can record your altitude. So at different waypoints that you set in this mode. So the next mode is the stopwatch. And Larry from Wisconsin will be happy to know that the local time is displayed on the bottom. So it's 5:11 p.m. and when you start the stopwatch, you don't have 1/100ths of a second. It only goes to 10ths of a second, which I don't know how many of you out there need 100ths of a second. Maybe you're a coach and you want to timing your football players on the 40-yard dash. Well, if that's the case, do not get the GBDH2000 because it doesn't even have 10ths of a second. It just has seconds. So that means your fast linemen are going to be as fast as some of your running backs, which is a crime. Okay, that's not even true. If you could, anybody under sub 5 seconds in the 40-yard dash will have 4 seconds on their 40-yard dash with this watch. So I guess you should get it if you want to make all of your football players seem faster than they are. But if you want an accurate time, you want this watch or this one. So if you're a coach, either one of these would work well. This one has 100ths of a second. I guess if you're a track coach, you might need that. But if you're a football coach, this would definitely intimidate your opponent. And the coach for the Buffalo Bills wears a G-Shock. I saw that. Not seen what watch Bill Belichick, my favorite coach, was wearing. Today's game was at 9:30 a.m. since they were playing in Germany. But anyways, this is a timer, and I should have double-checked this, but I think that this one goes up to 24 hours. But since I'm going to set it, I can show you that you have forward and reverse. The right buttons are forward and reverse. See at the top, 0 hours, 23 hours. So that's one advantage to the Mudman GW9500. Okay, and in the timer you can see the local time too. All right. Next function, alarm. I believe it's 5 alarms. Let me see if we can go through them. This is the hourly signal. The snooze, you have 1 snooze alarm and 4 regular alarms. Okay. In world time. So this world time is a little bit different than the second time zone in the AE1500. The world time, you set the time for the watch, and then on the world time you set what additional time zone you want to display the time. So I have mine set to mountain time in case I am unfortunately sent to New Mexico. It's 1 hour behind, but it is still a lot easier to have New Mexico time set to a totally different clock. Okay, there's a lot of confusion. Most of the oil field in eastern New Mexico just stays on Texas time to avoid confusion. Okay, so on the AE1500, like I said, you have to set the time specifically to that second. It's like a whole different clock, and I think that the seconds would be the same between the main clock and the second time, but you'd have to set the hours and minutes. And this just has an offset. So when you set this watch in the main time, you tell it what your time zone is. And mine is Central Time, Texas time, which they call Chicago. And then this is when the multiband 6 was last received. So this is another advantage of the GW9500 over the AE1500 is the multiband 6, which every night we'll pull in the time and sync up to the atomic clock. So you can see the last time that this Mudman was synced was at on the 12th of November at 3 minutes past midnight, okay? And so the time was synced and everything, and I would set the AE1500 off of the GW9500. Are all these things, are they making this $380 watch, is it worth the additional money? All of these things I'm mentioning? For some of you, that might be the case. Okay, and we're back to the main time. And so I don't know if I showed this, but if you're on any other mode and hold down the bottom left button, which is mode, you'll go back to the main time. And I forgot to point out, from the main time, you can look at the date, and by pressing the top left button, you have the day, the month, date, and a graph of the barometer, the trend of the barometer. All right, I'm getting really worked up. I don't know if you guys can tell I'm out of breath. I may need to see what my heart rate is with one of these heart rate watches. Wow, 120. That's like a brisk walk. Okay, comparing the AE1500 to the GW9500, I am really worked out. I should probably be wearing this watch and classify this review video as a workout. Okay, if Casio's watching, add that in to the list of exercises. Video reviews of Casio watches. Maybe we should see what my heart rate gets up to when I start ranting about negative LCD displays. Wouldn't that be something? All right, so another big difference of the GW9500 is that we have a compass. This button got me the compass, barometer, and altimeter. So altimeter is useful when you're hiking. It's useful when you're driving. You're driving a big rig or driving, long distances to see your change in altitude. Barometer is good for the change in barometer can warn you about possible changes in the weather, and the compass can help you navigate. Okay, so I think that I covered everything in terms of the watch module functionality. Okay, so obviously there's a lot more on the GW9500 compared to the AE1500. Okay, and then the big thing for me is the mud resistance. All right. So I'm subjected to a lot of crazy slime at work. Like the mud where I work, it's not just like water and dirt. It's like hydraulic oil with like caliche, which is like the clay dirt they have out here. And on certain drilling rigs, I have oil-based mud used as drilling fluids. I used to haul oil-based mud. And, that stuff's nasty. And there's always a problem with all the mud and gunk and goo, slime, oil, motor oil, breakfast burrito drippings. All of that can get into these buttons. There's no protection of this module from slime creeping into those buttons. But with the Mudman, I have tested this by dunking it in diesel, dunking it in motor oil, used motor oil, hydraulic oil, cat hair, and I pressed the buttons and it still worked. I can't smell, but I left this watch on the counter of my bathroom, and my wife walked by and said it reeked of diesel. Okay, so this watch is up to the task. Okay, it's like over-engineered, I think, for most of what we are going to do. All right, and so that's why it costs so much, right? This is a highly functional standalone watch. There's no Bluetooth. Standalone watch that is housed in a nearly indestructible case with bands that there's no pins. The bands screwed on, and so it's actually so rugged that I've paused to think if it's too rugged and is it going to get caught in rotating machinery. Hopefully not. All right, guys, I just saw that this Sony ZV-1F is warning me that it's about to die. So I'm going to have an upcoming rant video about how stupid this camera is. And yes, it's plugged in. It's plugged in. And it's still saying it's about to die. Anyways, Links below. I know you guys love links, so I got links below for the Mudman. And like I said, it's on Amazon, and it's the Japanese one. I'll try and find, I'll update it, so look below. I'll try and find like a legitimate American link for the Mudman, but supposedly the Japanese version is of high quality, highest quality. And I have a link for the AE1500, all right? And this comparison video is being cut short by the terrible battery life, even while plugged in, of the Sony ZV-1F camera. But both of these watches, you can't go wrong, really. I mean, if you can't afford the $380, you can get the AE1500. I'll just show you until this watch die or this camera dies, how similar they are. Right? Look at the size and shape. Like, nearly identical. These bumps, which I call crenellations, very similar from one to another. And this part where it's flush with the glass, that allows filth to run off. Okay? The same thing on this one. The buttons on the GW9500 are better protected from incidental, presses. All right? And this one has wings that beef up the where the band attaches to the case. This does not, but I think that the pins are pretty good, much better than other watches at this price level from Casio. And it's eerie. And the big mystery is that this AE1500 came out first. I've seen this in Walmart for the last couple of years, and I looked at was it the Casio Fan Mag? Let me see. Yeah, Casio Fan Mag. According to them, this was released in 2021, the AE1500, which is before the GW9500, which was released, was it last month? It was released in 2023, 2 years later. So there's a mystery there. It makes me wonder if they kind of had this design all ready to go, but sat on it. And this was supposed to be their own cheap knockoff of the Mudman, but they just happened to release this one first. Okay? What Casio does is they make their own knockoffs of their G-Shock.